Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Halsey, and I'm the event specialist here at Enterprise DB. I will be your host today for our webinar, Installing Postgres on Containers. I'm joined by Marc Linster, Senior Vice President of Product Development and Support, and Shaktisikha, a Senior QA Engineer. Before we get started, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is expected to run for about 45 minutes. This presentation is being recorded, and we will be sharing the recording along with the slides after the broadcast. The lines are currently muted. If you have a question, please feel free to submit it in the question panel. Today's session is scheduled for 1 hour, or for 45 minutes today. We expect the presentation to last most of our time, and we will allot any extra time for Q&A. If we do not have time to address all questions, we will follow up afterwards with any attendee whose question was not answered. Now, without further ado, here is Marc and Shakti.
Okay, thank you, Molly. So, as Molly said today, Shaktisikha, our lead QA engineer for containers and Kubernetes, is joining me on this step-by-step approach to installing Postgres on containers. What I'm going to do agenda-wise today is I'll just do a brief excursion. I'll promise I'll be really brief on who is EDB. And then we'll talk a little bit about the EDB Postgres Platform on containers. I'll do that just because I want to make sure that everybody understands that deploying on containers is bigger than just putting the database on containers. You still need to worry about high availability, monitoring, failover, backup, recovery, etc. But today's the demo part, which Shakti is going to do, is going to focus entirely on how to install the Postgres on containers for developers. So at a later point in time, we'll go back through the whole HA, monitoring, backup recovery, etc. thing. Today, we're going to focus in the demo entirely on the EDB Postgres in a container and how to install that and use it for developers. As Molly said, we'll have enough time for Q&A, and if there's anything that we can't address, we'll follow up afterwards. And then we'll look a little forward to what's next in the pulse on Postgres. So let me first, before we get into who is EDB, just let everybody know we do this every time. We've done it with mugs and with other things. So here, please ask us a question. Give us your U.S. business address, and we'll send you a pair of EDB socks, which, you know, for those of you that know Boston, socks is something that's very, very important for us here. Not just because of the cold weather that's coming, but also because of baseball. Okay, so first, who is EDB? We're really the largest provider or the largest supporter of the EDB, of the Postgres open source community, and we've been doing that for 15 years. You'll see that we are mentioned in the Gartner reports on operational relational database management systems, where we've really emphasized and strengthened the role of Postgres. Forrester has reported about EDB and Postgres, and all of that has led us to have over 4,000 customers worldwide today, over 300 employees with global offices today. So, I mentioned the Gartner reports, and, the Gartner reports are very important to us and to our customers because they give a good assessment as to what Postgres can do today. When Gartner restarted their reports in 2013, immediately EDB Postgres was in there and has been continuously in the Gartner reports since 2013. Now, key when we look at this Gartner report is the two dimensions of the completeness of vision and the ability to execute. If you look at what that means and why Gartner puts somebody there, it really means that Postgres today has the oomph and the capabilities necessary to support a mission-critical deployment in a global enterprise. Obviously, EDB plays a key role in assuring that, but Postgres deserves most of the credit. The other thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is to those people that are missing in this quadrant. EDB Postgres today is the only open source based relational database in this magic quadrant. It's the only one left. When it started in 2013, there were other players in there. Today, they are all gone. Postgres, EDB Postgres, is the only open source relational database today that where Gartner believes that the capabilities and the ability to execute are really there to support the enterprise. So that's obviously led to, what I said before, over 4,000 customers. And we're listing some here that we're allowed to talk about. Key to these customers is that they're using Postgres really for mission critical stuff. And I'm emphasizing that here, not so much to sell our company, but to give you the background on why we're saying that Docker containers or databases in Docker containers require more than just a database. They do require high availability, backup, recovery, monitoring, all those things in order to be successful, right? So these customers, when they use Postgres, they don't just put Postgres down, they make sure that it's highly available, monitored, and reliable. And when you think about containers, obviously the very first step is to install a container and play with it and use it for development and QA purposes. But without all the other, let's say, tools around it, the database is not going to be as good as it can potentially be. So we're not just talking about EDB as a commercial company, but we're very proud of our open source contributions to Postgres and to other related communities. So quite a few of our team members are in the core team for Postgres. Others are major contributors, and then there are other named contributors on the Postgres page. So we're not just the commercial side of Postgres in the world of the enterprise. We're also one of the major contributors to the open source Postgres project. And again, that's important as we shape Postgres for the future, and for you to know that, if there should be an issue and if you have to call us, you're really talking to the people who have developed a lot of the core of the Postgres open source product. So if I go forward, I mentioned the Postgres platform, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But it's important for you all to remember that in order to be successful with Postgres, you need to think about things like integration, migration, management, and the whole set of deployment platforms. Why is that important? Well, a standalone solution doesn't have a whole lot of value. A solution that you can't migrate onto from your existing Oracle or SQL Server estate is really not going to help you save a lot of money. And a solution that you can't manage at scale, again, is going to extremely limit the impact that Postgres can have on your environment. So again, these are things that we believe are very important for Postgres and Postgres in your environment to be successful. So even though today we'll talk mostly about the individual container, we would encourage you to think about Postgres in this bigger context to make sure that you can have a Postgres that is extremely highly available, 4 or 5 nines, a Postgres that you can manage at scale, so that you can have exception-based management like what we have with PEM, and a Postgres that automatically fails over if there should be an issue, and that's something like EDB Failover Manager provides. Okay, so we'll talk today. The example that we'll use today, we'll use EDB Postgres Advanced Server, which is a superset of PostgreSQL. It includes Oracle compatibility. That's the key feature. But everything that we're going to show you today is equally applicable to standard Postgres. So we're not trying to, box you into a corner or anything like that. We just want to show you what's possible and how to go about it. So let's just dive a little bit into why are people going onto containers, because I think it's important again to always keep that in mind. The portability, so the fact that you can run a container practically everywhere. Now that Linux has really become the preferred platform for Postgres deployments, deploying in containers will allow you to run, on your development environment, on your Mac, Windows, Unix, OpenShift, GKE, really anywhere, and you can deploy that very, very quickly, as we'll see in a couple of minutes. With tools like Failover Manager, but also Patroni and Solon, you now get really good failover capabilities, all orchestrated by Kubernetes. And then Kubernetes, I think, is really winning. Is clearly winning in containers the battle around how to manage orchestration and deployments. So what we're going to start with today is really the first step of how to install it, how to install a single container, and how to work with it. But then keep in mind that there are steps that need to come after that, and that's where Kubernetes comes into play and other infrastructure elements come into play. But all of those are available for you today in the world of containers. So as I said before, EDB Postgres Platform, lots of capabilities, available on multiple deployment platforms, and today we'll only talk about containers. So looking into it, and again, just to understand the context about deploying Postgres in containers, the context is really that when you go into production, highly recommend that you do more than just a database in a container. Create and take advantage of all the automated capabilities that that Kubernetes operators give you today to deploy highly available clusters that include failover, backup and restore, monitoring, read scaling, all those things that are needed in order for you to be successful on platforms like Kubernetes, Red Hat OpenShift, or GKE. Okay, so when you think about containers, don't just think about the database in the container. You got to think about the rest of the stuff, because otherwise you're not going to achieve the high availability and the enterprise usability that you can really do today with Postgres and Postgres in containers. So some of the things just for you to remember that have recently become available in Kubernetes that are really interesting now, and that allow us to say, hey, containers is not just a developer tool, but it's something that can now be used in production. Those things are stateful sets, anti-affinity, so to make sure that a cluster gets distributed across multiple pods, configuration maps, secrets, and then persistent volumes. So lots has happened in Docker and Kubernetes over the last year that really now allows us to say, hey, the whole technology is ready to be used at the enterprise level. So I'm going to take a quick survey now here. Molly's going to run a survey where I'm going to share this data with all the attendees here, just to figure out, okay, what are you using today, and what are your thoughts about containers? So please take the next 10, 20 seconds to fill this in, and we'll share with you how the data is coming in and what folks are saying. Okay, we're getting a lot of responses here. Okay, we got some votes coming in. Okay, now let's share the results here. Okay, so you can now see the results here. You can see that 16% already using Postgres in containers today, which is great, and 21% are planning to do the next 3 months, 3 to 9 months, another 20%. So that basically means that within the next 6 months, close to 50% of our current audience are planning to use containers, which I find very exciting and aligns perfectly with what we're hearing from our customers, where in all of our customer conversations today, we hear 70 to 80% of our customers today want to talk about containers and want to understand what it means to start deploying containers. And yeah, it's exactly aligned with the data here. 20 to 30% say, well, I really don't have plans to do that. Okay, so we're seeing very clearly that next year containers are going to be a major topic in enterprise database deployments. Okay, so let me continue here with the presentation. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go now into what it takes to install EDB Postgres containers. And again, the steps are exactly the same whether you use the containers from postgresql.org or from Enterprise DB. There's really not a significant difference here. So the steps to take are install Docker on your environments. You can install Docker on Linux. That's what Shakti is going to talk about. You can install the Docker environment on Mac, on Windows, on pretty much anything. Get your EDB login. That doesn't cost you a thing. Takes 30 seconds to get it. And then we'll show you how to get the EDB Postgres containers, how to do the pull from the container repo. We'll tell you how to configure your storage and start the container, and how to connect to it via pgAdmin or PSQL. And, you're done. I mean, this whole thing is not going to take a long time, and it's going to be really, really straightforward. Okay? Just to make sure that that everything's absolutely clear, here are all the commands that we're going to use today. And I'll walk you through those commands, and again, this listing will be exactly in what Molly's going to send out after this presentation. So we're not going to show you how to install the Docker environment, but in Linux, it's really just yum install Docker and start the thing. Okay. Pulling the containers is, you just pull the containers from EDB's environment. You're going to create a local directory. Make sure that you can use the directory, access it, and here are the utility commands that Shakti will show you. Docker images shows you everything that you have locally available. Docker PS shows you everything that's running. Docker run, this is the command that you're going to use to run the EDB Postgres container. So you're going to give it a name, and then you're going to pass a number of variables into the container, such as the name of the database, the port that you're going to use, the database user, the password for that database user, and other parameters such as the replication user if you want to have that. And then again, the name of the data volume that you just set up, and then what is the mapping to the external port, so that the software running inside the container is mapped to a port on the outside of the container, so that you can connect to it, say via pgAdmin, for example. And then, hey, where are you going to get your container from? If you want to log into the container, which we're going to do, so that you can run pSQL inside that container, well, this is how you do it. You log into the container, and then you can now run pSQL, which is what Shakti is going to show you. Stopping the container and removing the container. So it's really, really straightforward to get all of this done. Shakti, is there anything you want to add to this?
Sure. Also, like you said, we can pull the container images from our Enterprise DB repository. We also have the tar files of the same images available on our downloads page in case you are not able to connect it to the network, or your the user's company does not allow the outside repositories, so they can use the downloaded images tar files. Okay.
Yeah. So because not every company, not every environment allows you to do a Docker pull to a public repository. So in that case, you would use a tarball. Okay. And we make the tarball available again because many of our customers in financial services or in other government institutions don't necessarily allow direct access from a database server or even a development machine to the internet. So that's when you would pull the tarball and untar it and then use it locally. Okay. So now we're going to go into the live demo, and our audience, please bear with us. Live demos always have risks. Shakti and I have offered lots of donuts to the god of demo, but we're never sure if the god of demo is benevolent on a given day or not. So bear with us, but Shakti is now going to give us a live demo of how to do all the things that I just talked about, how to install an EDB Postgres Docker container for the developer, how to connect to it, and how to use it via pgAdmin. Okay? Shakti, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Molly. And hi, everyone. I'm Shakti. I'm working in the containers team at EDB. In this demo, I'm going to show about how to install and use the container of EDB Postgres Advanced Server. So as a prerequisite to that, like Mark has already explained, you have got to have Docker installed on your machine. So as you can see, I have Docker installed already. And following to the prerequisites, I'm going to create a file system on this machine, on my host machine. And later in this demo, I will explain why I'm creating this. So I'm just giving full permission to my file system. And this command is basically to disable the AC Linux so that my containers can use this file system. This command is only necessary on Linux machines, so this is not applicable for all other platforms. Now, let me take you to the containers repository where you can get the login access to our EDB repository. Okay, so this is the this is our enterprise DB site where you'll have to log in using your own credentials. This is taking a while. Okay, so once you are logged in, you will get your username and password here. I can show you that after a while. It's taking some time now. Okay, got them. So I have a login, so I was able to do it. Now, those who don't have logins, they have to create a new account for themselves. So once you are logged in, you can go to my account page. And this is going to be your username for the repository, and this is going to be the password. So back to the terminal. Okay, so as you have already got the username and password, you can Docker login to containersenterprisedb.com. Okay, this is taking a while. So you, like I said before, in case you have any such issues, you can use the tarball available in our website's download page. Okay, so let me show you that. So in case you face any such issues with the repository, you can always go to the download page of EDB Postgres Advanced Server. So here you will get all the options, and you can download the EPAS only container image from here.
So I think we should, Shakti, I think we should just continue and assume that the image is available locally.
Right. So just a second, please.
Shakti, I think your command docker login has a typo. It says docker login containers.enterprisedb.com. That's what the typo is.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mark. So now that we are logged in, like we have already shared in the previous slide, you can directly pull the image.
And while this is pulling, you will see here, Shakti has pulled an image that we call EDB AS Lite, which is the developer image. We have a regular advanced server image, which you would only use for production environments because that has the monitoring and failover capabilities built in. So the AS Lite image is intended for developers because it really only has the necessary developer capabilities, not the production capabilities in it. If you want to use the production capabilities, that's fine too. It's just a little bit more of a heavyweight container. That's why Shakti is pulling the AS Lite image.
Right. Thank you, Mark. So now we can see the image with the Docker images option. Now let me show you how we can use this image to create the container, and we can always create as many number of containers as we want using this image. So let me show you to create one. Okay, so here we are creating the Docker container image. Docker run command is to create the container image. With -- name, we are identifying the container that we are going to create. -h is used to define the host name of the container. So once the container is created, you will see the host name of the container is EDBS 11. -e parameter is to expose all the environment variables that we are going to use in the container. So here with the -e option, we are specifying all the database parameters like database name, database port, and user details. This is the image that we are going to use, and with -d option, we are running it in the detached mode so that the container will keep on running in the background. There is another thing that I told you to explain later. This is the -v option. So this EDB volume folder is going to be the folder inside the container where all of our data will reside. As you can see, this volume EDBS folder is the one that I created as a prerequisite in the very starting. So this folder is basically the folder of my host machine. And as you can see, any data that I'm going to add to the container will also be present on my host machine. So in case my container is getting crashed or deleted, or whether we are doing it knowingly or unknowingly, we will always have the data with us. Now let me log into the container. So Docker execute is to get you the container login access with -int. We are basically opening the terminal with bash shell and in interactive mode. So now we are inside the container. As you can see, we have EDB Postgres Advanced Server running, and you can access the database running inside the container locally also with the database details you have already given. So now let me show you how to access this container from outside remotely. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to access the Docker container from pgAdmin. In the servers, I'm going to add the container database server. I can give this any name. In this connection details, I'll be giving my host machine's IP address. So this is the port that I have exposed on my host machine while creating the container. So with -v port, as Marc has already mentioned, so I have exposed 1234 port of my host machine to the database port here. So I'll be using that, and my webinar is my database name. These are my database details. Again, these are all the similar details that I have mentioned here in the Docker run command. So as you can see, my webinar database is accessible here from pgAdmin. You can do all sort of database functionalities that you are allowed to do on EDB Postgres server. Let me show you by adding some table to the data here. So to this container, you can do the database actions both from remotely from pgAdmin and also locally from the container itself. So as you can see, I'm adding a customer table here, and it will reflect in the remote session as well. And if you go back to the container, so this is the table that I created. So the thing that I want to show here is this container database you can access either by logging into the container or directly from the remote session. So as also, if you want to do some changes to the database inside the container, that will also duplicate in the pgAdmin session. So yeah, that is all about my today's demo. Over to you, Marc.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shakti. Okay. So I will share my screen here going forward. Okay. Okay. All right. So thanks, and sorry for that little glitch, but you know, as anybody who's done live demos knows, that kind of stuff unfortunately happens. And thank you for the many participants who pointed this out to us. We got lots of help here. So okay, so now let me just go over to Q&A here. We've had a number of questions coming in, and we have a little bit of time to go through them. But before we do that, I mean, again, let me just repeat the URLs. Get your EDB repo credentials. Doesn't cost a thing. Takes 5 seconds. Pull the EDB containers. As Shakti said, you can do it through the Docker pull command, or you can just go to our download site and get the tarball. If you want a deeper demo, you know, just contact us. We'll give you a deeper demo. If you want to see a little bit the high availability stuff, we did a webinar not too long ago, and you can see it in there. If you want to understand how the operator works, we're releasing the operator for Docker Kubernetes on Friday, so you can download that and also play with the operator. I recommend you start with, following Shakti's demo with just the basic container, get comfortable with that, and then go to the next level. Okay, so now let's dive into Q&A. Molly, what do you got?
Yes, so one of the first questions that we have is, can EDB containers from Red Hat Container Repository? Can you get the EDB container from the Red Hat Container Repository?
Absolutely. So the EDB Postgres containers are certified for OpenShift, and so you can get them from the OpenShift repo also.
All right. The next question we have is, can you lose data when the container exits?
Okay. I think Shakti showed you before that with the make directory command and then making sure that the directory is visible and that you deal with the SE Linux setups. At that point in time, your data directory is actually independent of the container. It's in the underlying environment. So even if you blow your container away and then make a new one and point that container to the same data directory, you're back in business. No data lost.
All right. And the next question we have is, how do you hydrate the container with an existing backup?
Hydrate?
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I assumed it was very technical. I was like, oh, hydrate, probably not just water.
Okay, Shakti, do you know what that means? Because I don't.
Yeah, so we are already providing the backup functionalities, additional functionalities with the Kubernetes images that we have. So that is not available with this set of container images that I showed in demo, but it is available with the other ones where we have cloud enabled. So we have backup functionalities enabled so that the users can restore from the backup.
Okay. All right. So that's the bigger demo. That's the version that includes Kubernetes, and then, as I said before, the whole EDB Postgres platform. So you get high availability, backup recovery, etc.
Another question we had that came in is, Linux a better platform for Postgres containers versus Windows?
Oh, wow. Okay, so in general, our statistics have shown that over the last 5 years, 5 years ago, we had about 25% of our production customers running on Windows. Today, it's gone down to 5 to 10. Everybody else is running on Linux, RHEL and CentOS being by far the majority. So we're seeing a lot more with that, but bluntly speaking, it's too early to say whether Windows with containers for production is better or worse. I mean, there's still best practices for virtualized environments, and bare metal environments are very well known today, but best practices for containers are still emerging. And I must say, we don't have enough data to have a data-driven answer to that question. We may have opinions, but I prefer to give you data. So I must say I don't know.
Okay, and then we have one more question today, and it is, can you use a container, edit it, update it, and then from there, how do you make a new one and store it on the local system? That was loaded. Should I break it down?
Yeah, Shakti, do you know how to answer that question?
Sure. So one can do that. So basically, whatever changes you want to do or add to the container, you can do that by logging into the container, like adding any user if you want that to be added to the image or any other system level changes. You do that, and then you use the Docker commit command. So it's basically a simple command like Docker commit the container name and the image name, and it will create a new image for you. And it will basically update the existing image, and so that will be available on your local machine, and whatever changes you have made, those have become permanent now.
All right. Thank you so much, Marc and Shakti, for taking the time today to speak with us. I apologize for those of you whose questions we did not get a chance to answer yet. Thank you all for joining the webinar. We will be posting all of the questions in our follow-up email, so any question that went unasked will be answered, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
And don't forget about the socks.
Don't forget about.
Give us your address. We'll send you a pair of socks, okay?
Thank you. Have a good day.